what troubled you enough to leave Islam. So.
Sure. And I brought up the story of Abdullah ibn Abi Sar before in other dialogues that I've had. And the reason why that one disturbs me the most um, is because he was receiving the revelation, Muhammad ibn Abdullah was receiving, revelation from Allah. I think it was Surah Al-Mu'minun. And, and Abdullah was able to, add, as he wanted to the book of Allah, and that frustrated him to the point that he apostated from Islam, and then and then a death sentence was sent by Muhammad, Uthman had to convince Muhammad not to kill him. In order to convince Muhammad not to kill him, they had to coerce him to convert back to Islam. I mean, that was it was altogether a disturbing story that that really shook me when I actually did the research behind it. And the story of Zainab, that was something that David would.
Yeah, before you get into
Okay.
Zainab, real quickly, so just so I can understand what you're saying, and this is for the benefit of the audience, you're telling me that this gentleman named Abdullah ibn Abi Sar would actually change the messages that Muhammad claimed he was receiving from Allah, which led to his apostasy, because any sensible person would conclude, like he did, wait, Muhammad, if you're telling me what you're writing down or asking me to write down are revelations from God, there is no way that I can influence you to change those revelations. Is that what happened?
Yeah, he was actually adding to the verses. Like, for example, Muhammad would finish an ayah, and Abdullah ibn Abi Sar would say that something that rhymes with it, and it was profound. And Muhammad was like, "Yeah, go ahead and write that."
It seems that his reasoning is exactly parallel to the Muslim who might think about the story today. In other words, if you're Abdullah, you're thinking, wait a minute, if this guy's a prophet, then I'm a prophet too, because I'm saying things and he's writing them down as revelations of the Quran. But a Muslim today and he left Islam over that. He left Islam. He said, look, if there's no way this guy's a prophet, or I wouldn't be allowed to change his revelations, but I am allowed to change the revelations, and therefore this guy can't, this message can't be from God. But a Muslim can look at that and have that exact same reasoning. Wait a minute, I believe the Quran is this perfect word of God, and yet there was a guy, one of Muhammad's scribes, who could improve it.
Yes,
who could improve it? Muhammad said,
yeah,
write it that way.
Not inspired. But what if someone says, hold on, Farhan, well, those are fabricated stories. They're not based on authentic Sunni sources. Now, I'm sure you've have met Muslims who've used that argument. So didn't you entertain that idea as you were studying that story? Didn't you think that maybe these are fraudulent tales and therefore they don't hold any weight as far as Sunni Islam is concerned? If so, then how did you deal with that?
Well, I mean, I did think that for a while. And a matter of fact, I was finding ways, and I was finding the typical arguments, against that it was fabricated. This is not from an authentic source. Stuff, just a typical Muslim response. You know what I mean? This is the typical response that Muslims give. What you're saying is that, oh, this is not fabricated and stuff like that. But there's so many stories like this about Muhammad that they consider fabricated. First of all, why do these fabrications even exist? Exactly. Second of all, I think David Wood made an excellent point when he debated Robert Spencer in terms of the principle of embarrassment. Why even narrate this in the first place? And then on top of that, there's so many other incidents, like the satanic verses, is another perfect example of this. And it has like over 30, chains of narration leading to it. You know what I mean? And why would people fabricate this? You know what I mean? About their beloved. Exactly. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, I mean, again, it took me, like I said, to realize that Islam is not the ultimate reality behind our existence in order for everything else to start making sense. You know what I mean? Before, I had to have a reason and interpretation to get around it.
I see. And again, real quickly, what about Zainab? What was it about Zainab that you, because you mentioned Zainab, the story of Zainab. What's that all about?
Well, David, I think in two of our debates brought her up. And, I found myself, desperately trying to say that, oh, Muhammad was a man, he got aroused when he saw her, and stuff like that. That's natural. That's the type of arguments that I had in my mind. You know what I mean? There's a reason why, he was still a human being, he was an angel, and so he naturally had these inclinations. But okay, even if he did, you know what I mean? You have to be the better man than to try to get your own adopted son's daughter. You know what I mean? There has to be a bigger morality there. That even if Allah revealed to you that you could have her, you should still be the better man and say, no, this is my adopted son's daughter, dude. I got to chill out on that. And it didn't happen that way. And I just think that the story is just not. It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, you can say that again.
So basically, these are stories that